So, Anthony, can you recognize me?
No. Do you know where hospitality comes from?
No.
You didn't pick it up. You didn't pick it
In. That's it. From within.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. I'm Glenn Hausman. That's Anthony Melchiori. You, of course, tuned into No Vacancy Live. Anthony, so great to see you today, my friend.
Hopefully you can hear me better than you did in the intro because I have my microphone in front of my face.
Well, listen, I figured out what you were saying, and boy, oh boy, did I get it and join in. You know, I'm very excited for today's guest because we got Sarah Dandashy on the show. You know how much I love her.
Hospitality within.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. I can do that.
I'm seeing double.
You know what's interesting? She texted me. I was going through some notes last night, and she texted or emailed me about a year ago, almost to the day, and said, "Hey, would you do the forward for my book?" And then a year ago, basically a year later, here we are. Right. And we're going to talk about the book, and we're gonna tell you how wonderful Sarah is and all that stuff. But I really want to do something. I want to read the forward before she comes on. Is that okay?
That's okay, but I'm not going to say anything nice about Sarah on the show. I made a promise to give her a really hard time. So sorry.
I'm going to read it. I'll read it relatively quick, but it's really what I mean from like, I've gotten a lot of books. The best book I've ever gotten is The Adapters from you.
I feel like, thank you. I feel like we should put some violin music behind.
Yeah, but The Adapters is something where you have to really, it's almost like a reference guide when you're feeling, when you want to be motivated and you need, like, you're mentoring somebody, you go in there and you give them a story. But this book is a book that's kind of a relatively easy read, but everything that I've ever thought about in hospitality is kind of in this book of the way I feel about hospitality. And I think even the name of the book is just spot on. So maybe I'll stop in the middle, but I'll just give you a little bit of it. Elegant, approachable, fierce, delightful. These are all, like, immediately wrote it down as soon as I read the book. Those were the words that popped into my mind when I first met Sarah. Those are the same words that came to mind as I read Hospitality from Within. For me, this is the go-to book in the hospitality business. Now, a lot of people be pissed off that I said that, but it's true. That might come as a surprise to some people who have heard me say often that hospitality is innate, that hospitality cannot be taught. After reading this book, I will never say those words again. Sarah has totally changed my mind. She started in the hospitality business at a very young age, like many of us. Right from the beginning, she found herself in the deep end of the pool. It was sink or swim. As it turned out, I'd call her the Michael Phelps of hospitality. She swam and she has never stopped. She's the rare combination of a person who truly listens, who's amazingly self-disciplined. I would say that's my greatest compliment for her. She's the probably most self-disciplined person I've met, who possesses an incredible work ethic and an insatiable desire to serve others. I loved reading her thoughts on guest recovery, on guest expectations, overall guest satisfaction. Sure, those are topics that are brought up in many other books, but what Sarah does in this book, which you just can't be found in other books, is to teach that service, not just in hospitality, comes truly from within. This book is easy to read, but she doesn't leave anything out, making this an important book that really should be part of every business training. And she says in the book, mindset is everything. And this book has the right mindset. And just let me clarify something. It says, like, you can't, it's like two things I'm saying here. It's like it really comes from within and you can teach it. Well, which is it? And it basically what it is every one of us is, I truly believe, is born and is a nice person, wants to be nice. Nobody gets up and wants to go to jail or do drugs or be mean to people at the front desk. And something happens in your life, whether it be a chemical imbalance and you can get the right medication, or it's just you just grew up in a really bad situation. So, but if you find the true spirit of who you are, true whatever it is, meditations, books, self-discipline, whatever it is, you can really understand that concept and really start to treat people the way they need to be treated. I had my wife came in from the bank yesterday, and she never good experience. And it was like, how? It wasn't the bank. Where was it? I don't know. It was somewhere. And because she actually likes her bank, but and she's like, why was that so hard? Oh, it was the drugstore. It was the drugstore. Why was that person why was it so hard to be nice to me? And so she really shows you that you have a choice. And I love this book. I absolutely love it.
That's beautiful. You know what? I love what you wrote there, but I also love watching how uncomfortable she was while you were reading that.
Well, that's why I didn't read it, and that's why I didn't have her on, because I know how she is,
Yeah.
and I don't want anybody to be distracted from 3 people on the screen. I want people to listen to what I'm saying, because I mean it, and I think you know me better than most people. I don't say what I don't mean.
That's very true. That's very true. All right, so now that is and
a really good-looking guy wrote the forward, which I love.
Yes, and you also wrote part of the forward too. All right, everybody. Enough said. Without further introduction, and I'm literally going to do it without further introduction.
Hello.
How are you, my friend?
Oh my God. Well,
Congratulations on finally getting the book published. I know what a long road it's been for you, and I can't wait to get my copy, which has been ordered. U.S. Postal Service. You're keeping it from me. I should have it any day.
oh my gosh, I have to say the whole mailing out and sending everything out, that's a whole thing in and of itself. Because obviously, you know, I'm signing them and sending notes as well too, and wanting to make sure that everybody gets something that's personalized. And then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, post office.
Yeah, well, let me read you what you wrote to me.
Oh no, you're embarrassing me.
I am so grateful for our friendship. Thank you for being a part of this experience. Always being so supportive. Here's to more collaborations. And don't worry, I won't wear heels. Always a zinger.
I mean, what can I say?
So I know you're not in where you usually live. You're in a different place. But I just want, before you can announce where you are or not announce, I don't care. But how much preparation did you do for the background to set up for the shot?
It looks like about 2 hours in the makeup chair, right?
Hey, actually, I made this bed.
Did you?
Of course you did.
I did. I made it because I slept in it this morning, and I was going to have them come and service the room, but I was like,
make your own bed, Sarah.
I can make my own bed. I was like fluffing it and making sure it was all like.
I just know everything you do is really like, even the front cover. I was just talking to my co-writer this morning, who I put on hold for 3 months because I just haven't done anything with the book. And I said, we have an expert that's going to help us. So you are going to repay me. Trust me.
100%. And I will, let me say this, by the way, every step along the way, I've had to redo.
Right. So that's why you are literally, I'm going to spend days of your life bothering you.
I can't, I mean, it got to a certain point that I don't have any expectations for. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I just have no expectations that it's going to go right the first time.
Right. These things don't, especially it's so much work.
Well,
it takes a minimum of a year from start to finish.
Wow. Well, totally. I didn't hear Sarah say, I'd be happy to help you. I haven't heard those.
Oh. I would be happy to help you.
Well, you have no choice. You know, it's like, do you ever see The Godfather when he goes in there and he goes, if I do you this favor, one day, you never know when, could be on a Sunday, could be on a Tuesday, I will ask you to come and do me a favor. And you will do me that favor.
Pretty much that's how that's going to happen. That's how that will happen. I'll be like somewhere like exotic and random, and you'll be like, hey, I need your help. And I'm like, I got you.
So how much, how did you come up with the name?
Okay.
And how much effort went into that photo shoot? Because that is a perfect shot.
Oh, thank you. It's so I always knew I wanted to write a book. And obviously, you know, a lot of, you know, being with my background as far as being a concierge, people are like, oh, do you want to share stories, lifestyles of the rich and famous, all the crazy things? And I'm like, no, first of all, that goes against everything about being a concierge, is that that's just not what I would ever do.
Right.
And then as I thought about it, it's like, okay, like, what is it? Like, what is it about the concierge? And I think it was a combination of, because this idea really formulated during the height of the pandemic. So I was actually coming back from a trip. It was my first trip that I had left Los Angeles in the middle of the pandemic. It was July of 2020. I was coming back from Sedona, and I'm like, what is it? And then I was just kind of brainstorming. And that's where I came up with the title, Hospitality from Within. And then I was like, okay, that makes sense because it's all about this genuine service. And there is this, what is that special sauce when it comes to hospitality? And how can we try to, hone in on that, especially when it's such an intangible thing? We're talking about feelings here. How do you talk about feelings in a tangible way? So that's kind of how I came up with the idea. And then I quickly started getting into outlining it. And then again, because it was the pandemic and nobody was doing anything for pretty much for the month of October of 2020, I had a schedule for myself. And so it was
Right.
every evening from like 6 until 10 p.m. I would write.
That's a big chunk, 4 hours for writing.
It is. And well, I would do that. And then some days I wouldn't do it. And then I would
Right.
be like, and then some days I would be like, okay, just write a paragraph. Because
Mhm.
it is very tough when it comes to writing and having that discipline for writing.
Very difficult.
Oh my gosh, of course, of course. And then it's like, just get started and then you'll get into it. But half the time it really is just getting started. So it's definitely been interesting. Wait, what was the second part of that question?
The picture, where was it
Oh,
taken? And did you have the person you usually work with shoot it, or you had somebody else?
so that was shot at my former hotel, the London West Hollywood,
Uh-huh.
and I worked with one of the photographers I worked with a couple of different photographers, and I worked with one of them, and we had a couple of different ideas, and we took a lot of photos,
Of course.
and it's interesting because I somewhat had an idea of this particular place to be.
Mhm.
I kind of envisioned myself standing, but we all know I'm as tall as a giraffe, so that just wouldn't fit on a cover.
Not
So
not when you're wearing flats. So that's
yes.
Well, anyway, it looks great, and you said something about you would never tell stories out of school, and I agree with you 100%. I've had several publishers try to get me to write a
Mhm.
kitchen confidential book,
Yeah.
like Anthony Bourdain, which I think he did brilliantly, and he's one of the greatest writers, and I could never touch what he did.
Mhm.
And plus, from a hotel standpoint, um, I would really have to go right to the heart of it.
Mhm.
And I know at the heart of in my opinion, is the controversial part of our business.
Mhm.
And I can do it. I can really tell some stories that doesn't shed a light on our industry in the best way. Why in
Mhm.
God's name would I do that? I wouldn't ever tell celebrity stories, but I can tell you the structure of what happens in this business that I think is not proper. But I would never do that. I would never
Yeah.
ever do that because it gave me everything.
It did, and there is. I mean, not to be say so much that you can compare it to like doctors, but there is this sort of confidentiality. People are sharing certain things with you, and it is part of the nature of the business. And so to me that's not really the interesting story. Might there be like a thing mentioned at a dinner party? Sure, but to put it in print, I have absolutely no desire
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do that.
we're the same person. So, Glenn, ask all your inquiring, beautiful journalist questions.
uh, all right. So, when it came to framing out the book, what were the lessons that you would hope people would take away from it in learning the art of hospitality within, and how do they apply that to their lives?
Yeah, no, that amazing question. So really when it came down, it's like I basically started doing bullet points. Like what makes sense? If I was to create a book where there are these like what are these core lessons of hospitality? And obviously there's so much more than just the core lessons. So that's where I came up with the 7 pillars of hospitality.
Mhm.
So that we can kind of like focus on that. But then aside from that, it's like we can talk about building relationships. We can talk about, the art of effective communication. And then there were a couple of these ideas. It's like, what is that special thing? What's that difference between 4 and 5 star service? And so that I basically started kind of like bullet pointing and then put it together in this outline. If and the way also for myself, I think that this might be an interesting thing that I don't normally share.
Right.
I like very easy, quick nuggets. Like if you gave me a dense book, I personally wouldn't read it. So
If you love dense books, the adapter is available right now on Amazon.com.
Ding, ding. But so a lot of along with covering these, these topics, I also wanted it to be a very reader friendly format, and I'm a big person with quotes and takeaways. So I ended up I wanted to put that in there, and then
Right.
also real life experiences, and not just my stories, because yes, I can have stories, and yes, there are many stories that I've even probably forgotten, but the whole beauty of hospitality, which I know that you guys know, it's all about it's all about working together.
Right.
And so, the colleague next to you can have this amazing story and example about XYZ. And so that's why I really wanted to get stories from concierge, also tying into my background and all the concierge that I know around the world, because that was cool. Because now you can hear these cool hospitality stories that are positive, and it's about delivering that genuine service. And whether it was done in Australia or Germany or England or wherever, it's still that same feeling that these people were able to give across. And then also, a lot of wonderful execs in the industry as well too that have these amazing nuggets. So I wanted to tap in on that.
Well, I don't know if you saw our podcast yesterday, but Daniel from Sage
Yeah, there's one.
Hospitality.
Mhm.
Yes.
Do you know Daniel?
It's so funny because I got a text the day before that somebody bought the book and they want to give it to him.
That's
Okay, so do me a favor, send him the book
Yes.
from you,
Yes.
saying Anthony suggested you read this book because this is everything. Because he literally talked about your whole book yesterday without knowing he was reading your book.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
So make sure, and when we're in Alice,
Yes.
I don't know how much I'll be on the floor, but we'll introduce you. We'll try to find them and introduce you. I know we're gonna see each other out there. Maybe we'll have dinner. Maybe you can join us, Glenn, because I'm going to sign some books too for her, and
Yes.
so we can, and maybe we can introduce you to him, because I think he would. I think he'd give this book to every person in his business.
Well, it's exciting. So maybe we'll get a couple of ones that are autographed by you, Anthony.
What's the biggest? No, that's what I said. You weren't listening when I talked.
Yeah.
What's the biggest surprise since you've launched the book? What's the one thing that you're a little surprised by, good or bad?
Two things. The main thing is the different industries of individuals that are purchasing the book. So I have people that are in the sports industry, that are people that do, it would make sense, obviously, hospitality industry, but how many other industries are intrigued and purchasing it? So that I love. And then also kind of how it just seems to be a little bit, I'm not a big person that's like, hey, buy this book. I'm never going to do a hard sell. And so what's been nice is that just as I talk about signing the book and shipping it, people are like, oh yes, I want to buy that book, and they're buying it as well too. So that's been
That's
sort
awesome.
of heartwarming.
Just so you know, I bought the book. I don't know if you know that. I know you sent it to me, but I actually purchased it. Did you know that?
I know that. I see all the purchases that come through because
Oh.
I'm doing everything on this book.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
So-
So that's why I also say it's like, as it's taken time, because it's like I had to order, I get the books, I have all the parts, I sign, I labels.
That's awesome. I'm glad you know that I purchased the book, so that way I don't have to go through a giant big salad type of incident and try to drop it into conversation. So you know that I purchased it.
Oh, I know you bought the book, Glenn. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But what's the one thing in the book, the 7 pillars,
Yes.
right? Give me the one that you think I can take a kid that's working in any industry, or a person, any person, it doesn't have to be a kid, say for McDonald's or even somebody from the finance world, and I put him behind the front desk the
Mhm.
first day. What's the one pillar of the 7 that you think resonates the most for that person?
I would say, and I've got them right here in front of me. That's why I was like, I would say making it personal. Because I think if you really just hone in on making it personal, it kind of locks you into having that genuine and authentic engagement. You start to listen. You basically tie into all the other pillars, because you are like, okay, I'm committing to making this a personal interaction. And so I think that if it's the one thing, it would just be starting with that.
Wow, that's powerful right there. That's so powerful, because like in my whole career, I've never thought of it that way. But the
Mhm.
one thing that I will tell you I did as a young manager is I did that without. That's why I said I love the book, because I did it without realizing. When you gave me something to do at the front desk, a guest says, "Hey, can you take my laundry? Can you get me a hamburger? Could you do whatever?" It's like nothing else existed to me.
Yeah.
I take it personally that is my job to fulfill your need. And but I never put it in those terms.
Well, and that was, I think a lot of it when it came to putting together this book is, again, these are all things that we know, and we've maybe done them over the years, and especially, being in the industry for so long, but it's like, how do you explain that to somebody and like really just make it simple, and really it just like what does it come down to? So
Is it a challenge of yourself to keep refining it and refining it to simplify it and bring it down to its core meaning?
Oh, 100%. I think the whole thing has been a refinement. And then once it was done, it was like, did I add enough here?
Right.
Did I do this? Did I do this? And I mean, on one hand, that's the beauty of self-publishing is that you can kind of change it and add things that if you
Right.
told me to add a paragraph today, I could add it, upload it, and all books coming out starting tomorrow afterwards would have it.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of self-publishing. But then also at some point you have to be like, okay.
I'm done.
Yeah,
So let me ask you this then, Sarah.
Yeah.
So obviously you're teaching people a lot about hospitality within blah, blah, blah. But what did you learn about hospitality writing this book?
I think for me, it actually kind of spawned the idea for the next book, which I won't share too many details.
I don't, because I'm going to steal the idea and go write it this
Wait,
way.
you writing another book?
I mean, I will not tomorrow, but like like I will. But I think the chapter that I really loved the most was the chapter, the tipping point, the difference between 4 and 5-star service, because when you step back, and really kind of examining that, we've all been to fantastic hotels. I'm in one right now, and it's like, but what is that difference? You've got these 4 walls, and people can have great decor, but the difference between that 4 and 5-star service, really kind of brainstorming on that and trying to put that into tangible terms. Because I don't know that that's really been done.
How do you put something then into tangible terms if really great service is intangible?
Intangible, exactly. Well, I guess what I'm saying too, the good question. Maybe tangible might be, it's like so it's under, that's where you kind of use examples. So you talk about maybe service being thoughtful, that thoughtfulness and that 5 steps ahead. And if you're in their shoes, and even if you maybe offer something that would be an ideal next step, and that's not the direction they want to go.
I will use a quote. I literally opened up the chapter you were talking about.
Yes.
The chapter. So I went there and literally I turned the page, and there's a quote by a person you may have heard of, and I forgot that it's in here.
Oh,
and I think it backs up what you're saying. And I think that this quote kind of says it. Great service hits the mark everyone is hoping for. Excellent service hits the mark no one knows exists. I'm sorry. Excellent service hits the mark no one knows exists. And I said that, and I don't know what the hell I was on when I said it, but like literally that really does encapsulate what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do, because that's true. It's you have an expectation of service. You have an expectation of a hotel you're in. The hotel you're in, when you say the name, I'm staying at the so-and-so hotel, everybody goes, oh, right?
Yeah.
Everybody goes, oh, okay. So you have clean underwear and fancy shoes on. All right. So the feeling that when you walk in the lobby of that hotel, you're like, okay, the service behind the front desk is great. But what the person that stays at that hotel bought it, sold it, invented it. They ain't impressed by nice linen. They ain't impressed by jewelry. They ain't impressed by a menu. What they're impressed with is taking it personally, taking my needs personally. And I think that is beautiful, because people that the room you're staying in, that's a beautiful room, but that's a gorgeous room, the lobby, but the people that stay in that hotel, that's their guest room, on the 3rd floor in their West Wing.
Mhm. Oh, of course. But what is it? It as beautiful and as lovely as this room is, and it really is fantastic. The housekeepers that come and check in on me, the ones that notice, they're like, "Oh, I noticed that you like sparkling water. Would you like to have, more Perrier in your room?"
Lovely.
And I love this. And people, I mean, I'm just sleeping here by myself, obviously, but my pillow it has my initials on it, SD. And
Really?
what I love is that what they do for couples that are staying here is they actually end up figuring out who tends to sleep on what side, because you can probably tell like who's next, what's next to the bed, and they make sure that for the Mr. and Mrs. or whatever, who
Right.
or
Yeah,
yeah.
we understand.
You get it.
Scary stuff you can't share.
All
We get it.
incarnations of that. Whoever's sleeping in the room, whatever your initials are,
Yeah.
end up being on your side of the bed.
That I've been in this business for so long time. I've never heard that, but that's like this level of, like, if I walked in and that happened, and like after a couple of days I realized that was happening, that would blow my brains out.
Yeah.
Because those are the
Hope
things.
that never happens then.
Because those are the things. Those are the things that you don't expect. That's
Yeah.
excellent service. Of that's not an expectation. Not even an expectation. Not a thought.
Yeah.
And and again, it goes back to the operations for a second, and I'll kind of talk about that. It's when you're in a hotel like that, a housekeeper does not have the same amount of room count as you would in a 3 or 4-star hotel, simply for that reason. It
Mhm.
gives them the time to be in your room and absorb
Mhm.
what you need. And if you're doing 15 rooms a day, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
And,
Exactly.
and so it really does come to the operation. And honestly, people say to me, "Why am I spending 1,500 or 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000, $10,000 and I have to stay in a hotel room? What do I get?" Well, if
Mhm.
it's important to you, you get attention and you get personalized service, like making sure the pillow's on the right side of the bed. That's fantastic.
And not only that, what was it last night? And I'm here working, and I'm working with a private client, so I'm doing a bunch of different things. And I at one point I was like, "But what happened?" I left for probably 30 minutes to go downstairs to do something last evening, and I came back and they had done turn down service.
Right.
And I'm like, were they waiting outside my door to watch me leave? And then they quickly did turn down
Probably.
service.
Yeah. Well, there's probably motion sensors in there for HVAC and stuff, probably cleverly tuned into that. They knew the room was unoccupied. Sarah, I got a great question that really cuts
Yes.
to the heart of this from our friend Mike McManus. How
Okay.
much trial and error is there in finding? I said that really New York era. Let me try that again. How much trial and error is there in finding that 5-star service compared to 4-star service? Because it's very not specific, right? It's more
Yeah.
of a feeling and attention to details.
It is. Well, I think, I mean, and that's actually why that quote was used, is Anthony's quote in regards to that. And it's like, I think that 4-star service, to really boil it down to the nuts and bolts, 4-star service is what you expect, and 5-star service is all about the unexpected.
Right.
It's those wow moments, those magical moments, those moments of like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I needed that.
But
That's 5-star
and
service.
to dispel this whole notion that you have to have 5-star service in a 5-star hotel is insane. Go ahead, Sarah. I'll let you pick up on that.
No, that's why I get so excited, because that is actually what my next book is about. And it is all about how you will, and that's why I get so excited, because it's like people come here and it's like, okay, yeah, of course that makes sense. Funny enough is that I actually had a conversation. So I have bookmarks with these books that I've been sending out, and the process of printing bookmarks, let me tell you. And I ended up ordering with a company,
Right.
and they ended up not sending them to me, and they took all my money.
What?
Yeah, it was horrible. I call and I just was like, "Hey, I'm just going to find out." And it's like, "Well, there's no guarantee." And they were so rude. And I was like, "Sir, I just wanted to call and find out the status of what I had ordered. You didn't even ask me for my order number. Like, you don't even know what we're talking about."
Right.
And he was like, "Ma'am, if you expect me to be nice, this is not a customer. I'm not in the customer service business. I'm in a B2B business. I deal with other businesses." And I'm like, "Sir, funny that you got me on the phone.
Right.
Because even those businesses are your customers and you should treat them like guests. In fact, why don't I go ahead and send you a free copy of my book and maybe
Yes.
it'll inspire you.
Did you really? Did you do it?
Yeah, I definitely did. And then I told him I was like, you know what? Since this seems to be such a difficult thing for you, go ahead and just keep the $250. It's before the holidays. Happy holidays, and hopefully you buy something nice for your family.
You
And
know
make
what?
sure a little
That's
bit
why I aspire to be you, because I'd be like, sir, since this is so difficult for you, why don't you go yourself?
Yeah, right.
Don't be my answer. But that's why you are who you are.
well, Anthony, okay. Little does everybody know that deep inside, that's
That's what you-
definitely what I wanted to say. And once I hung up,
Yeah, but the difference between you and me is I actually would say it. But you know, and you know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for anybody in his orbit, his family, his
right.
children, his wife, whoever he's in business with. I feel bad because that is the way you handle your life. Like the way I am on this show, the way Glenn is and the way you are is the way I'm in my life, good or bad.
Yeah.
And you're, you know, my temperament is basically the same. And that you're like, you don't get that your customer is whoever it is. I mean, your customer is everyone. And so what I was saying, and when you got so giddy when I said it, I just want to follow up that people think, you know, when you worked at the Plaza or you worked at the Peninsula or wherever you've worked, people immediately say, "Well, or you're from New York. Oh, you're from New York. Like it's different here. Or we're in a 3-star hotel. It's different in a 3-star hotel." And I'm like, I worked at the Lucerne Hotel as my first GM job, and I guarantee you, you walk in that hotel to this day, okay, those people are still there. They've been there over 20 years.
Same here.
And Ruben and everybody at the front desk, you walk in and you don't know it's a 3-star hotel. It feels like it's a 5-star hotel.
Right.
It may not have the opulence, but they still believe in what I put down 20 years ago. And again, I'm not as articulate as you are, but my feeling and my passion and my example of when I deal with guests, they picked up. And you go in and they still, and Mark, I'll use Mark Summers for example. He is one of the most difficult travelers, and he'll admit it, that he's easy to deal with as long as it meets his expectation. He went there on business for ABC 15 years ago, and he won't go anywhere else.
Where
Because
the hotel she's at now, or somewhere else, or the Lucerne?
Lucerne.
Listen.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But again, and that's where, because and whether it's the difference between 4 and 5-star, or even it's like even examining, you know, hotels or businesses within the same comp set. What is the difference, whatever your business is, be it a hotel, be it a restaurant, be it a brick and mortar ice cream shop? What is the difference that's going to have somebody come to one or the other? All things considered are the same. And it's the people, it's the human aspect.
Maya Angelou said it, right? It's not what you say, it's how you make people feel.
100%.
I picked up another quote here, and it's from, I'll just say, you'll know the reference. It's from Elephant Boy. The great, and you'll explain what I mean by that. The greatest success is having to say no to a guest, but they walk away feeling as though you said yes because of how you've made them feel. It's how you've delivered the information and the way in which you delivered it. It has made them feel accepting and heard and taken care of. Robert Elephant Boy Marks.
So Anthony is talking about Robert Marks, concierge in San Diego and former Les Clés d'Or USA president.
Right.
And
Also, little known superhero team, Elephant Boy and Giraffe Girl. I believe. He's saving hotels all around the country.
Little did you know. And I think that, so Anthony, you had made a comment, right? Is about you've got your famous story about
we're having lunch, and as we said yesterday, everybody knows I don't like small talk, but I'm sitting in the corner all by myself. There's hundreds of people around me, and I'm literally trying to just evaporate into the wall. And Robert sees me, and I know Robert. He comes over, he sits next to me, and we're talking. He goes, "Anthony, what would you do if you weren't, you know, doing what you do?" I said, "I'd be a concierge," and not because you're a concierge. I said, because if you need an elephant with 3 legs in a tutu, tap dancing in the lobby, I'm your guy to do it. I got home. Before I got home, 2 days later, there was an elephant, obviously a stuffed animal,
Okay.
with a leg cut off, sitting on my couch.
And by the way, all the calls that were going on behind the scenes to like
Right.
find your to end up to find your address and to do this and to get it all put together. Oh my gosh, it took a village. But I think that that's also case in point of
And
hospitality.
and
Is
it's
that
funny
it's
you say that because I never gave it a second thought that it was sitting on my couch and it wound up in my house and he knows nothing about where I live or anything. I
no.
never gave a second thought of the operation of it because I don't care. He
Yeah.
just shocked me. And that's all I care about. Like it made an imprint in me. And I tell that story 1,000 times a year.
Oh yeah, no, and it is. It's such a. It's. I mean, because it's such a special story. But I also love that quote that you mentioned, and that quote was, because you think about it, where is, and that's another thing about this industry. You certainly at the higher end properties, we're groomed to say yes, figure out a way to say yes. But sometimes you can't say yes. Sometimes you can't say yes because it's illegal or immoral, and you can't participate in that. But sometimes it just can't be done for what a myriad of reasons. So it's how do you navigate where you might have to deliver a no, but
Right.
again, as Robert said, do it in a way that they don't feel like, oh, you just like shut me down and said, no, I can't do this. It's like, no, but the opposite of improv. No, but and then
Right. So that's rough saying no to somebody, but what is the art of making them feel really good about being told no and to get out?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's coming to them with other options, and
Mhm.
not just one other option. If you can, is like to at least try to come to them with at least 2 or 3, because then it should, even if like worst case scenario, they're like, nah, I don't want any of those. At least it shows the effort that you tried to come up with alternative options, and then it's like, okay, well, these are the options that we can do, and then maybe it then generally ends up getting them thinking about something else, and it segues the conversation into
And
another
also,
thing.
and again, whether it's a 5-star hotel or someplace else, it could be a mechanic shop.
Mhm.
A lot of people have more money than they'll ever spend in 10 lifetimes. But there's one thing that we all have in common: time.
Yes.
We all have, right? Some of us have less time, more time, but we don't know how much time we have. But we're all counting the same minutes and they all go into our deficit. So the time is the most important. So having 2 or 3 options is paramount because those people they're very scheduled and they
Yes.
have very little time and they have very little time for nonsense. And
Mhm.
so if you come to them and say, I'm sorry, I can't, it's like, well, I deal with I can't my whole life. Like people say, I can't do this, I can't do that, or you can't have that, or whatever. That's fine. So that person is used to not getting what they want. That's
Mhm.
not the point. The point is get me what I want.
Yeah.
Maybe not the way I anticipated getting it, or maybe not exactly what I wanted. And I'm going to read another quote because I love quotes.
I love these. I love that you love all the quotes.
The goal listen, I don't even have my friend's book right in front of me. Your book is right next to me because I look at it all the time. The goal has always been talking to the guest heart. I want everybody to listen. Everybody's listening to this. Please write this down. Get this book. The goal has always been about talking to the guest heart rather than to the guest's mind. It's about the emotional experience that a guest has at their property or at your business. That is critical. And what's the gentleman's name? Serge? How do you say his last name?
Oh, Serge Etienne, and he's at the Hotel Metropole in Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like this. Keep
That's
it
quite a
crispy.
hotel.
Who
That
wrote
is
that?
quite a hotel. And he's phenomenal, by the way.
Dr. Brian Williams, keynote
Yes.
speaker, and all says, keep it crispy. What do you mean by that?
Oh my. Okay. So, by the way, for anybody, and I sure hope that he sees this later. So, Dr. Brian Williams is phenomenal. He basically he speaks at a lot of different hospitality events, and when he talks about keeping it crispy, and by the way,
Mhm.
and it stuck out to me because I've seen him speak multiple times. It's all about keeping it fresh. And it's like you keep it crispy. So it's like that crispy, like you just want to keep things fresh. But the way that he delivers it, he almost, when he talks about hospitality, he delivers it like it's a sermon. And you are like, preach. Okay. And so when he comes in and he's like, keep it crispy.
Right. You throw in a couple hallelujahs and amens, right?
I guess, and I don't normally say that, but I would say that in that particular case.
Now I really want some extra crispy fried chicken.
Bacon. No, I was going to say bacon. I'm even vegetarian, and I don't even eat bacon.
And I'd like talk a little bit about this. Is interesting. Talk about chapter 10, personalized service in the digital world. And you literally break it down, and you have a timeline here: technology in hotels from 1894 to today. And I find that very, very interesting. The first hotel to offer controlled heating and cooling in room, St. Regis, New York City, is in 1904. And when you think about it, like that was the tip of technology. That was like, oh my God, look at that. And then 2016, the world's first robot hotel opens in Japan. So in just a little over 100 years, you go from being able to heat a room to having a robot talk to you.
Yeah.
So a lot's changed in 100 years in hotel business.
Exactly. And you know what? I kind of found a couple of these and researched it. And I thought it was really interesting because exactly as you said, it's amazing to see how much things have changed. But then also when we're thinking about technology, like when you talk about technology, people are like, oh, you're talking about like apps and texting. And it's like, well, it's so much more than that.
Right.
And it is, and how has it changed over the years? And again, it really is, how are you using that as a tool to, again,
I know, like knowing when you sneak out of the room for 30 minutes, they could come in and do turn down service.
case in point. Exactly.
You are the smartest human beings ever lived, Glenn.
Let me get that a quote for my next book.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So again, there are some best practices, especially like if you're going to be, doing sort of like texting and other type of services. If you aren't able to have that in-person interaction, which, some of us haven't been able to have over the past year, but then, but again, it's like, how can you still use technology to your advantage to still make the person on the other end feel cared for and thought of? So yeah.
So how in today with the clientele that you deal with over the years, for that clientele,
Yes.
have they embraced technology and you're no longer needed, meaning the concierge, or they just use technology, but they still depend on the concierge as much as they've ever depended on them?
So a couple things go into that. Definitely in sort of those 5-star environments, they will always need a concierge. They need that personalized touch because you also need somebody. It's like they might research something, but you need somebody to help connect the dots. And it's all about kind of like helping make those things like.
And to get that VIP service, it's hard for you to call to get the VIP service.
You can't just do that in a text, And again, it's about how you make somebody feel. So it is that sort of fine line with people want efficient. And they don't necessarily need to talk to somebody, but it is in those higher end environments. It is that new. For example, I'll just even use texting as a concierge. So I've given restaurant reservations for a gazillion years. There's nothing more challenging than if somebody texts me, "Hey, I want to go to dinner tonight. Where should I go?" That is it. And that's
tough because you don't know anything about them. If you say, "Hey, I know this great seafood place," they can say, "Screw you, our oceans are in danger. How dare you suggest?"
Exactly. And so it's all about fine tuning. So it's like, how can you basically be that Google for somebody in essence, so you can help give them 3 options that are, oh yeah, that makes sense. So where in person, it happens all the time. Hey, where should I go to for dinner tonight? And then you just have this natural conversation. It's like, well, what were you kind of in the mood for? Did you want to stay close? This, and then it's not like you just pummeled them with 5 questions and they're answering, but like you just have this natural conversation, and you do lose a bit of that with technology. And so it's like, then, how do you basically try to streamline so you're not texting back and forth? Because the whole point of technology and texting is you need to be quick and efficient and not have 25 texts.
It's interesting because as Glenn knows, if I'm looking, I go to the concierge and like, where do I go? And the next word out of my mouth is, I don't care. And like, well, I don't care. Well, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me the best restaurant. I don't care. But the question that a good concierge will ask me that gets me to shut up and to pay attention is, do you want something close in walking distance, or do you want to get in an Uber or a cab? And that always throws me because I never want to get an Uber or a cab. I always want to walk. but I always anticipate the restaurant they're going to tell me is like around the corner. So having a person that understands how to deal with all kinds of people that want to hear the story, people that want to talk to you, or a person like me that doesn't want to hear anything, just give me a freaking restaurant. There's a talent to it. There really is a talent to get to each personality, and to really, and also, I think as a concierge, one of the greatest things about a concierge that I love is you're not selling, you're servicing. And in the hotel industry, in all of our departments, most of the departments, front-facing departments, you're selling something. You're selling the front. You're selling a room, revenue management, whatever you're doing. In concierge, you're servicing. That is your number one job. And to me, like I've said before, I think last time you were on the show, the difference between $200 room and an $1,000 room, that $800 is the concierge. I truly believe that.
Yeah. I mean, you could also say like those beds are pretty freaking comfortable.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to challenge you on that. Do you know how many beds are so pretty comfortable? I can't remember the last time I walked into a hotel and had an uncomfortable bed.
I can, like 1997 when
Right.
the heavenly.
No, you're right.
So to your point, that is a beautiful room, but I've seen that room a million times.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
No, absolutely. But you are right. I mean, I was kind of being cheeky in regards to that because,
but getting back real quick to that kind of personalized service. When we went at the Crawford, what is it called? The Resorts World?
Crockford.
The housekeeper, same thing. They just made you feel really special. You spent like a year and a half in that hotel, right, Clay?
Yeah, I was there for like 5 or 6 nights. 5 nights, 6 nights, 5 nights, something like that.
That's a year for us.
I know.
wow.
And weren't they great?
Amazing. And I really want to go back there. In fact, when I go back for the great speaking engagement I have for Radisson Hotels America, I'm going to be there for a couple extra days. I'm thinking of going back over to Resorts World because it's so amazing over there.
Amazing.
Sarah, so we've been talking about 4-star, 5-star and stuff, but 3-star hotels, no disrespect to 3-star hotels, is typically select service hotels that many of us stay at. These hotels are typically great, always have great experiences, but what can folks there do to create a little bit more hospitality from within to make it feel like that 4- and 5-star experience?
Yeah, and that's also what's so great about that is I know that we've kind of talked about the difference between 4 and 5-star, but that's not to say, that 3-star can't have that. And it really is, it's sort of training. And I know Anthony had talked about this at the beginning, actually, before I think I even came on. It's training that sort of mindset. And it's like, so how can you do little touches that also, at the end of the day, it doesn't cost anything. Half the time, following up with something or offering an additional option it just shows that you care and it's thoughtful and it doesn't cost anything or it costs something very nominal. And so I think that that's a lot of things is that for owners of 3-star properties to explore empowering their employees with, okay, this is sort of the wiggle room that you can play in. If you've got a guest, you can offer these types of things. So then it empowers the employee like, hey, I can make independent decisions on what I can offer the guests to make them feel special without having to go and ask my manager. So they feel good about it because it's coming from them. But then also and that's also where it ties into the whole hospitality from within is like, if you are empowering and giving your employees, the people inside that make the hotel work, they will then in turn deliver the service that is memorable and special and keep guests coming back. So that's the other side of it.
Beautiful.
The challenge today, and I'm going to put you to the test a little bit. This book, if you're a TikToker and you're reselling sneakers or you're reselling whatever you're reselling, this book is important because it makes you realize why people will go to buy your product because they like your videos, they feel like you're really servicing them, whatever it is. So the book's really important for everyone. But right now, we were talking to the president of Sage Hospitality yesterday, and he has a lot of challenges, but he has a tremendous spirit, tremendous personality. And you don't really feel the problems that he's experiencing every day. However, I know the problems he's experiencing, and it's keeping people like right now, it's walking across ice. If you're trying to have employees hired and really feel your culture, you might as well have formal dress shoes on and walk across ice because you're just slipping all over the place. It's just not working because people want to leave. So I give you this book and I say, hey, man, welcome to our culture. And we're in by Hospitality Within. And let me teach you the components of hospitality. And let me teach you what we believe. Well, you know what? I'm already gone because I'm not making enough money, or maybe I am making money, but I want more flexibility. So it's so hard to try to inspire people to want to give because they all want to be entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And so put a pin in that and talk about that. But then I'm going to go back and say, well, Sarah's an entrepreneur and she was able to do all of that. I'm an entrepreneur and I was able to do all that. So it has nothing to do with your job. It has to do with who you are and how you show up. So that's a statement to my question. But what do you have to say about those guests or those owners that may want to buy your book? It's like, but I'm going to buy 50 books and I'm going to waste my money because people are just not paying attention.
Yeah, I think again, it also that's a really good question. I mean, it's more than just buying the book and saying, "Oh, I hope you read it." I think anybody can just do that, but I think part of it again is building out that culture within your property. So whether it's working with your human resources team, and doing whether it is like a mini training, but really kind of helping ignite them and inspire them as well too. So so it's definitely it's more than just the book, but I think it's how you deliver the book, which is also kind of part of delivering.
And I think that is so paramount. And also, I would almost, before I hired somebody, like if I was hiring for a GM, which I'm actually for one of my clients, I'm hiring a GM. So anybody's looking to live in Jupiter, Florida, or around Jupiter, Florida, and looking for to be a GM, even if you have no experience, if you work in a hotel, we're looking for a GM for that hotel. But anyway, I will probably have, once we identify that person, I'll probably ask you to send a book to them and have them read that book.
Okay.
And then ask them the lessons they learned before I hired them to see if that book really, they understand what the book is. And I mean, I could see you doing seminars and team building based on this book all over the world.
Yeah, well, and I mean, yes, and we'll see. We'll totally see like what that looks like. But I think that there's definitely kind of like taking it and putting it into motion for sure.
Right. And if anybody that's listening to this, please buy her book. And if you don't, because she won't tell you that, but if you don't buy the book, you're not allowed to listen anymore.
Oh,
whoa! Exactly.
So this is Robert Marks again. I wonder if he's listening, if he gets upset if I call him Elephant Boy.
Oh my gosh, no.
And
Elephant Boy, by the way, was a movie in 1937 based on a Rudyard Kipling book. Just so I know all you people out there care about.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And Robert says, and that's what hospitality is, isn't it? It's a little like magic, and that's why we do it, and it's so special. And I think it actually warms me because it really is magic. When you see, like you see things like sports figures doing things, right? And there was a sports figure football player running off the field, and he saw a little kid with his number on it off the corner of his eye. He could have ignored that kid. No one would have said anything because he really may not have seen him. And what he did is came back, he took his jersey off and he gave it to that kid. It makes me cry telling you that story because that kid is positioned himself in a place, and his family made sure he was in that place to have that jersey. Even when my daughter went to see Ronda Rousey fight Amanda Nunes in Vegas, I brought her to see her, Muay Thai fighter or MMA fighter, and she went to see Ronda, but Amanda Nunes, she saw her in the hallway, and she was so nice to my daughter that my daughter was sitting in the seat and not knowing who to vote for, to root for, because Amanda was so nice to my daughter. And that little moment that she'll never forget. And then Amanda knocked Ronda out. But it's those moments. You don't have to lift the building.
Yes.
Right. Sorry, we know you got to wrap up, but what about an audio version of your book? Do you have one?
Oh, not yet, but I'm going to be working on that. I don't know. Do you guys want to hear me talk and read this whole book? If you guys want an audio version, I will totally work on that.
I think a lot of people listen to books almost more than read now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So yeah, I'll definitely be working on that probably in about like 6 months or so. But I say, also get the hard copy as well too, because it's always a great reference. And
what would be great? What would be great? When you've done with the chapter and say, now for the quotes. And I come on and say my quote, and Robert comes on and says his quote. Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be actually amazing. I'd get to that. Okay, I will wrap my brain around that. I'm definitely into
Ooh,
it.
excellent.
So,
So,
you can easily do it. I've done voiceover for my show on my
Yeah.
iPhone. There's
Yeah.
there's
Oh, yeah.
there's moments on my show on TV that's
Pretty
just on my iPhone, so it's very easy to do.
It's pretty simple. Exactly.
that's awesome. So, obviously, you can get the book at hospitalityfromwithin.com.
Yes.
Hospitalityfromwithin.com. Make sure you buy it now because with every single purchase, the concierge gets their wings. So
Oh, I love that. That's
And there'll be some limited editions signed by me and Sarah.
correct. There will be. There will be. So stay tuned for that.
Right.
So this has been amazing. Thank you guys so very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so cool.
And
Awesome.
hire Sarah to do a speaking gig, and I'll show up for free, and I'll moderate the panel for free. But you have to hire Sarah.
Oh my gosh, you heard that. There you go.
And while you're hiring Sarah, why not hire me too? But you could pay me
Yeah, okay, perfect.
for free.
Sarah, you've heard me say it before. You're amazing. You're an inspiration to me. You're an inspiration to many people. You do it with class. You do it with dignity. And you're a very, very intelligent person that has written a very important book at a very critical time.
Thank you. I'm speechless, which is a lot for somebody that talks for a living.
And I'll just say ditto. We love you, Sarah.
I love that.
Congratulations on everything.
Amazing. Thank you guys.
Bye. That was great. The incredible Sarah Dan.
If you don't like Sarah, you're an asshole. Everybody get her book. I'm serious. Like, get her book. It is literally full. If you have a small business or you're just trying to work within a culture, if you're trying to service, whether you're in a deli or whether you're in a car dealership or a hotel, read the book. It's just such an important thing. And if you're a supervisor or a manager and you don't know how to relate to your people, this is a good way to start and say, hey, in our meeting, we're going to kind of take one moment of this chapter and we're going to talk. And what does that mean? And how does that, how do we deal with that every day? Yeah. So this book really makes it easy for you to manage your team. And it gives you the resources in a very simple, easy way to do it.
Beautiful. I love it. Be sure you get the book. Hospitalitywithin.com is where you get it. And I love that she's doing
Hospitality from Within.
Isn't that what I just said? Hospitality from Within?
Hospitality Within, I think you said.
All right. Well, make sure I say it again. Hospitality from Within. All right, everybody. Tomorrow night, got great guests on our Friday Night Audit Show. Me and Craig Sullivan. Oh, that's not good English. Craig Sullivan and I have Liz Wolfe and Harry Javer. You might know them as the ones who put on the incredible Logi Conference. We're going to talk about some great, funny stories from over there. And Anthony, next week, the two of us will be out at Los Angeles at the Alice Conference, broadcasting live from the Wayfarer Hotel. Thanks to our friends over at Pacifica Hotels and Resorts. Looking forward to doing that.
I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing you there, my friend, and getting back out there. And I had COVID, so I'm ready to go, man. I'm so like I didn't want COVID, but like I feel a little bit like, all right, I can at least kind of like have a drink with people and not be freaking out.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to having a drink with you and
okay.
Freaking out. And for those of you who want to listen to the audio version of our podcast, and we know there are so many of you out there, listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you want to get your shows. That is where we are. If you want to reach out to us personally on social media, he's at Anthony Hotels and I'm at Traveling Glenn, or just drop me out, Glenn at novacancynews.com. And don't forget to go to Hospitality from Within and get your book by Sarah Dandashy. Anything final? You guys?
Yeah, let's do one more quote. I love quotes. Come on, Glenn. Can I do one more quote, Glenn?
Go for it, baby.
I'll find a small one. Let's see. Okay, this one's in bold, so let's see if this one's good. This may be hers. Effective communication is the conduit of great service. Communication sets the tone and establishes expectation. It includes what is said as well as what isn't said. I'll leave it at that.
And another quote. You've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See you next week from sunny Los Angeles. Well, better be sunny after this. No,
it'll rain because every time I go to LA, it rains. So guaranteed it'll rain.
Hopefully you'll miss your flight. See you guys later next week.